What's up, guys? Today, we're making picks for UFC 235, Jon Jones versus Anthony Smith. We're going to start with the main card here. So first fight of the main card, we have Cody Garbrandt versus Pedro Munhoz. Cody Garbrandt, he's 5'8", 65.5-inch reach. This is interesting here because Cody's actually going to have the reach advantage in this fight, and to my knowledge, I've never seen him fight anybody who has a reach disadvantage to him. He's always at the reach disadvantage. So I don't think he's very in tune with using a reach advantage, and I don't think his style warrants it much, but he's actually going to have a reach advantage in this fight, so it'll be interesting to see if he can use that at all. Never has it because he has T-Rex arms. Like, look at the guy, he's just built funny. But last two fights, both losses to TJ Dillashaw. People are saying he's chinny as a result of that. Both fights ended by TKO or knockout, and I don't see that. I mean, first off, Cody knocked him down in both of those fights, or at least rocked him in the second one, before he got hurt. So to say that those were just like dominant performances is bullshit. But also, yeah, I just don't see he's chinny. I don't think he's chinny at all because he never really got like knocked out cold. Second fight was more so of that, but he was never like out cold. Like flatline, like Bisping versus Henderson. Like, he's never been like out like Overeem is in many of his fights. So I don't think he's chinny. He's taken a lot of damage in those last two fights. I think one of his main issues in those fights was just being emotional. We saw, the first time I saw it at least, was against Dominic Cruz, where he started dancing, just kind of going crazy. And I think that's just because he had so much emotion going into that fight, going into those TJ fights. So I feel that a key factor for Cody Garbrandt to be the best him is to not be emotional going into a fight. Yes, I understand that lots of guys fight better with emotion, but I'd really like to see him fight a smart fight here because I think if he fights this smart, it should be a fairly easy win. But with Cody, you never know. He's always trying to have fun. And I think what makes it more fun for him is that emotion, making that victory that much more important and just gratifying for him. In terms of his skills, I feel he's a very underrated wrestler. People don't see that, and he doesn't use that much, but he is a very good wrestler, and he's very good at timing it. He's very good at using it in transitions. So obviously, primarily being a boxer, a striker, you're not going to be looking for that takedown very much, but we saw in fights like against Dominic Cruz, he can time it, and he can time it very, very well and get those takedowns at an extremely high percentage, which I don't think you want to do in this fight. He's also very good at checking leg kicks, which against Munhoz is going to be important. Again, if you look back at that Dominic Cruz fight, he was getting out of the way of most of those kicks, started getting hit by a few of them, and then he started checking them very, very well. Lots of guys don't seem to check leg kicks anymore. Don't know what that's about, but I feel like that's a really good sign. But again, I think this is going to come down a great deal to just his emotion going into this fight. Boxing, very, very fast guy. I'd say he has the fastest hand in the division. I think Dodson overall would be faster, but just with boxing, with hands, with combinations, I think Cody's probably the fastest in the division. He's a very hook-heavy, though, which is interesting. So you're not going to see a lot of jab straights at lightning speed, but he's so damn fast that those hooks, when he throws a lead left hook or even the right hook, it's almost like a jab straight because he's throwing it so fast. He's going to have less range with it, of course, plus already having short arms, which is going to make it even worse. But so fast, if he can close that distance and he can catch you with it, you're not even going to know what's going to hit you because it's going so damn fast. He has great head movement, just overall very good boxing fundamentals. As I said, he relies on that hook-heavy attack, but he has the whole boxing repertoire in his arsenal here. He has lots of first-round KOs. We saw that against guys like Mizugaki, Thomas Almeida, many others. And just has looked good except for those TJ fights. And even in those, he had his moments, so can't take anything away from him. Moving on to Pedro Munhoz. Pedro Munhoz is 5'6", and he's a 65-inch reach. So it's only a half-inch reach different. It's just, I could see that Cody had the reach advantage, and I've never even seen that before, so I thought that was interesting, which is why I brought it up. So, Munhoz, he's going to be bigger. He's going to be the bigger, heavier guy. Yes, he's shorter. Yes, he has the shorter reach, but he's going to be the bigger, probably more powerful guy, at least overall. Maybe not with hooks, which is Cody's specialty, but with most strikes, he's going to be the more powerful guy. One of those keys is going to be the leg kicks, very, very powerful leg kicks. Cody's going to need to check those. If he's not doing that, that could be a big issue in this fight. Munhoz he's just like a bull in there. He'll come straight for you and take damage. Every single fight, he looks like he got the shit beat out of him, but he wins almost all of them. So a super durable guy, that goes without saying. You see him against Brett Johns. I thought Brett Johns was getting the better of him early, but Munhoz he's one of those guys, kind of like the Diaz brothers, that can just kind of walk through shots, and he'll like invite the brawl so he can gas out his opponent and then beat him later, just because he relies on his chin so much. In this one, though, that could be dangerous. Cody, I wouldn't say he has a ton of power, but he has a lot, and he can throw in combination, and you're not going to see it coming because he's so fast, as I stated earlier. So I think this is a bit of a dangerous fight for Munhoz. Of course, if it goes to the ground, he's going to have an advantage. I don't think Cody's going to go there. I don't think Pedro Munhoz is going to be able to take him down, even if he wanted to. And of course, if Cody does shoot, that guillotine is always a problem. That's Munhoz's signature. He has 6 wins by guillotine, so Cody better be careful with that. How I kind of see this fight playing out is very similar to Munhoz versus Dodson. Dodson wanted a split decision in that one, just kind of outstriking him, staying out of the way. I see it being similar to that. Although, as I said previously, I think that Cody Garbrandt is both faster with the hands and just a more technical boxer, plus he's bigger than Dodson. And I feel like Dodson, after that last performance, especially last week, Ben, that was sad, is kind of fading here. And I think Cody still has some potential. So even though he's been champ, I think he could be something pretty special. So I'm going with Cody Garbrandt here. I'm going to go by a knockout. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. So next up, we have Tecia Torres versus Welli Zhang. Tecia Torres, we've all seen her before, very well known. She's always the smaller fighter. I don't think I've ever seen her be the bigger fighter. Like even against very small straw weights, like Michelle Waterson, who used to be an atom weight, I still thought Michelle was bigger than her in there. So Tecia, she's 5'1". She has a 60.5 inch reach. She's very fast and athletic. You can just see that by her build. Very big, not broad, but very big shoulders, very well muscled, and very athletic. She's fast. She has a Taekwondo background. She's a black belt in Taekwondo. She's a 4-time kickboxing champion. So very well versed in striking. I think her big issue when it comes to MMA is that she's not putting enough power into her strikes. She's more of a point fighter. And that just, especially in this fight, like I don't know how well that's going to work. She uses her combos very well, throws kicks at the end of her combos, often lead high kick to either set up, so the start of the combination or the end. But yeah, it does like leg kicks all the time as well. She's very well rounded. She's good in the clinch. We saw that against Michelle Waterson. Obviously stand up, I just stated her accolades. Very, very accomplished stand-up fighter. Just look at a fight like Beck Rollins, just beat the shit out of her and it made it look easy. Not that Rollins is that good, but that was a good display of Tecia Torres' skills. She did well early against Andrade, and I think Andrade is going to have a fairly similar fight style to Zhang. Zhang is going to be a little less brute, like walk you down like the Terminator kind of thing. But I thought Tecia did really well early against Andrade. She was hitting with the jab straight, trying to keep her distance, always staying on her bike, and was getting the best of her early, but then eventually just kind of lost it. I don't know if she got tired or what exactly happened, but she started to trade with her more, and that is just not going to work against Andrade, so then Andrade just took over, as she usually does in most fights. But I thought she had a pretty good showing in there until the end of the first round, so I mean, not really, but there was times that she looked okay. Moving on, though, Welli Zhang, 5'4", 63-inch reach, and that doesn't even do her justice because she's very built. She's a thicker girl. Both of these girls are very strong. I don't know who's going to have the strength advantage, but Zhang will definitely have the size advantage here. She's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, so accomplished on the mat, as Tecia Torres is as well. The one thing that I notice in watching tape on Zhang is that she's extremely aggressive. So she'll take shots to give shots, and she'll just keep coming after you. She fought Danielle Taylor, and she got hurt. This was at the end of the round, luckily. But just, like, very poor defense because she's just walking you down. Not walking you down, like she's... How do you say this? She's, like, coming after her, right? And she's doing it in a somewhat calculated way, but when you're coming forward that aggressively, you're going to get hit. So she's kind of susceptible to a very good counter striker. So, for example, if she were to fight Joanna, I think Joanna would beat her just via counter striking. But in this one, I think it's going to go to a decision, as strawweight fights often do. And I see Zhang winning simply due to being that aggressor in this fight. Zhang is very well-rounded, as I said. She fought Danielle Taylor. She chain wrestled Danielle Taylor, kind of like Khabib would, and that just kind of shows her aggression. So even though she's primarily a striker, when she went for a takedown, she's not stopping until she gets that takedown. So somewhat relentless in that way. But yeah, so I think the key for Tecia here, she's got to gain some respect early. She's got to hit her hard and kind of gain respect so Zhang doesn't just walk her down the entire fight. And then the key for Zhang, obviously, is to keep that pressure on her, just kind of overwhelm her. I don't think Tecia necessarily... She doesn't wilt under pressure, like she doesn't give up, but it can cause problems for her. And so I see in this one, even if it's very close in terms of like strikes landed and just overall, I think that aggressive... cage control of Zhang will be the difference maker here, so I have Zhang by decision. All right, next fight up, we have Ben Askren versus Robbie Lawler.
Hello.
What the hell was that? Anyway.
It's me.
Who? What is this?
I was wondering if I'm ever gonna make the UFC. I keep winning everything. They said I was the champ in Bellator, but was too damn boring. Hello, Dana, hear me? I'm in Singapore and dreaming about who I could go and be. Johnny Hendricks and Robbie.
Oh, we're back. Okay. Sorry, guys. I don't know what the hell happened there. Who the hell is that guy? I heard somebody's coming on the next video, but, like, just interrupting this video like that? Come on, man. Anyway, getting back to this. Sorry, kind of lost my train of thought here. Ben Askren versus Robbie Lawler, right. Okay, Ben Askren. This guy is a relentless wrestler. He's a chain wrestler, so if he doesn't get you down in that first shot, he's just going to keep on coming. Very similar to Khabib. If he doesn't get the takedown, he's just going to keep on going for it over and over and over again until he gets you down. Once he gets you down, he has great top control, very underrated jiu-jitsu. Like, the guy is extremely good, and he always finds a way to get it to the ground. Always, because he's best on the ground. His stand-up is atrocious. It is so, so bad. Like, I don't even want to talk about it. It's terrible. So he has to get the fight to the ground. He doesn't even care if he pulls guard. He just wants the fight on the mat. He doesn't care if you're a jiu-jitsu player. He wants you down, and he'll get you down. He's never lost. He's done it every single fight. Problem is, he dives from like 20 feet away, from like halfway across the cage to get these takedowns. He doesn't always worry about setting them up. He's just trying to get you down. As of lately, his competition level has been horrendous. In the past, he's fought guys like Douglas Lima, like Andrei Koreshkov, mauled both of them, beat both of them. But lately, the competition is just terrible. Like, I'll name a few of these names. So we got Luis Santos. By the way, that was a no contest, and Luis Santos was winning that fight up until it was called a no contest due to an eye poke. I can't even pronounce any of these names. Nikola Aleksakin. That's not how you say it, but who really cares? He sucks. The next guy he fought was Askren Song. The guy after that was a guy who beat Askren Song, Sebastian Kadistam or something like that. And his most recent fight is Shinya Aoki, who's a tiny guy. Like, why are you fighting Shinya Aoki? Anyway, so terrible competition. His basically all I'm trying to say. He hasn't fought in 15 months, and we'll see how that plays in. Robbie hasn't fought in 14 months due to that knee injury. So both these guys have been very inactive recently, albeit for Lawler it was due to injury. I think Askren could be the best wrestler in the UFC other than Cejudo. He might be better than Cormier. I don't think he's better than Cejudo, though. I feel like Askren would get absolutely destroyed by guys like Usman. I think Colby would beat him as well. And I'm not a fan of either of those guys, but if Askren can't take you down, I don't see how he can win. Striking is terrible. Clinch is kind of like you don't even see anything in the clinch because all he's trying to do in that clinch is take you down. So I think guys like Usman and Colby would both piece him up on the feet, especially Usman. All right, moving on to Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler, I feel like this guy's been on a steady decline as of lately. I think it's kind of happened since he left American Top Team. The reason he left American Top Team is because Woodley became the champ, Woodley trains out of ATT, and Lawler hit the road. Interesting thing about that is Woodley barely trains at ATT anymore. He's mainly at Rufus Sport. Brings in guys like Dean Thomas, which we'll get to later. But Lawler, he's training at Hard Knocks 365 now. I don't see it as being a great camp. They haven't had that much success in the UFC, albeit they have a lot of very, very talented fighters. Just Hard Knocks has seemed to make all of them that little bit worse. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know if it's their training style. I have no idea what it is, but it doesn't seem to work for most of them. Lawler has very underrated kicks. He's got good high kicks, good body kicks, very good body kicks. All of that's going to be irrelevant in this fight because the last thing you want to do is kick Askren, because if he gets you to the ground off of a kick, you're screwed. Robbie Lawler, very violent guy. Ruthless is his nickname for a reason. Starts out very fast. You can look at almost any of his fights. He starts out fast. Look at Donald Cerrone. He just went out there and started wailing on him and hurt him early. Got him in the clinch and just punching him. He takes rounds off, though, so, like, has a fast start, he'll win a round, and then he'll just take a round off to kind of relax, reset, and then go after the guy again the round afterwards. So very interesting style in that. I've seen that a couple times in boxing, but you never really see it in MMA, so it's kind of interesting that he does that. I don't think we can put any value into the RDA fight because I feel like Robbie's knee was probably a little messed up going into that and completely screwed after... if not the first round, then definitely the second round. So, like, that wasn't really, like, a fair showcase for him because he was so messed up in that fight. I think it's ridiculous that he stayed out, like, that his corner didn't throw the towel. Guess that's Hard Knocks 365 for you, though, right? But, like, he couldn't win. He couldn't even walk on one leg. He was just a punching bag, and nobody did anything about it. So I think that was somewhat ridiculous. Back to Donald Cerrone. Cerrone mixed it up very well. He was going for takedowns. Then he was at kickboxing distance. He did well in the clinch. I thought Cerrone actually won that fight. Kind of thought he got robbed to Robbie. But yeah, Robbie seems to have been on a decline as of late. I feel like the key for him winning this fight is going to be sprawl and brawl. Obviously, he's primarily a brawler kind of striker, dirty clinch boxer kind of guy. And if that doesn't happen, he's getting wrestle fucked. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Askren's going to find a way to get this thing down on the ground, and I think he takes a decision because he doesn't do much in terms of ground and pound. All right, moving on. We have Tyron Woodley versus Marty from Nebraska, a.k.a. Kamaru Usman. So, starting with Tyron Woodley. Woodley's 5'9", has a 74-inch reach, and is just a machine. A lot of people forget he has a very, very good leg kick game. Used it earlier in his career. Seems to kind of have run stagnant as of late with regards to that. Has found other weapons that seem to work better for him. He's got a great Muay Thai game. Knees and elbows have become a lot more prevalent especially in the clinch with him. He throws feints all the time with his jab. He'll feint his jab to land the overhand right, and he might be the best in the UFC at landing that overhand right, which is just a missile. Like, that thing takes out everybody. Darren Till, Robbie Lawler, and it certainly hurt Damian Maia on numerous occasions. But in that fight, Tyron had torn his labrum, so he couldn't throw it at full power. But countless times he's thrown that overhand right. It was kind of what got him into MMA, and he's kept it and just added stuff all around it to kind of support that one punch, and it's still working wonders for him. He's a Division I wrestler. Wrestling's going to be interesting in this one because Usman relies so heavily on wrestling, and Woodley's kind of gotten away from that. I kind of feel like the wrestling in this matchup is going to cancel each other out. So we'll see what happens. So I'm thinking it's probably going to play out on the feet. Woodley fakes takedowns a lot. He'll fake them just to kind of like get you thinking that, oh, am I going to do this? I'm going to do that. Just mixing it up well to get you thinking about all the possibilities, all the different weapons he has in his toolbox that he can use on you. Obviously, extremely explosive. Like up there with the most explosive guys in the UFC, guys like Yoel Romero. Tyron Woodley is just a freak athlete, extremely explosive, which is both probably his best quality as well as his biggest downfall, because with that explosiveness, with those fast twitch muscle fibers, comes a lot of energy being expended, and what that means is he's going to gas out. The last few fights against guys like Wonder Boy Thompson, Darren Till, we didn't really get to see it, but like Damian Maia, a whole bunch of other guys, he has kind of paced himself well, and so a lot of people are thinking his cardio issue is gone. I don't see it that way at all. I see it, he's kind of learned how to pace himself better, and as a result of that, he's not gassing out at the end of fights. He's kind of just threatening and throwing more feints to kind of make guys wary that he will hit them, so they don't know when he's going to hit them, and as a result of that, he doesn't have to throw as much, and he doesn't gas out as quickly. So that's kind of worked well for him, but I do still think he's going to have a bit of a gas tank problem if any of his fights are kind of like high pace. So watch out for that. That could be a factor here. He has a habit of backing into the cage. A lot of people are saying it since the Wonderboy Thompson fight, part of the strategy to kind of keep him on his feet. I started seeing him do that against like guys like Robbie Lawler. He started doing that, and then he really started doing that against Thompson, and now it's become a big habit of his where I feel like even if he doesn't want to, it's kind of his comfort zone. He'll go up against the cage. And Usman's a pressure fighter, so if he pressures him up against the cage and Tyron can't get off the cage, that can be problematic, so we'll see how that plays out. Woodley, obviously more explosive, so he's going to be faster, so he's going to have a big speed advantage here. He's going to have a reach disadvantage with Usman having a 77.5-inch reach. I know the UFC, they say he has a 76-inch reach. That's wrong. Trust me, look at any other site that actually knows what they're talking about. It's 77.5, so he's going to have a 3.5-inch reach advantage here, which is fairly significant. You'd think a guy like Woodley, being 5'9", would be used to being at a reach disadvantage, but he has a 6'2", a 74-inch reach, so he's not really that used to it. So we'll see kind of how that works, because Usman, he uses it, I wouldn't say to keep distance, but he uses it well in reasons we'll get into in a second. I think that Woodley, so as I said, he's faster. I think he has better stand-up. I think he's better on the ground. I think he's better in the clinch. And a big one, I think he has better game planning. He's with Dean Thomas, Duke Rufus, kind of like put those guys together. Those guys never worked together except with Woodley. It's just kind of his little dream team since he's become the champion. And even before that, it's been a while. But I don't know if any other fighter, maybe Askren, has those same two coaches in his corner at the same time. But they game plan very, very well. Every single fight, they study as much, if not more, tape than anybody else. Woodley does as well. But I'm kind of concerned about Woodley with something that sort of relates to tape study, which is time management. He says all the time, it's not a problem. This is just who I am. I stay busy. But look at what this guy's doing. So he's a UFC analyst. We see him on ESPN, and we certainly saw him all the time on Fox. He does commercials. He does TV shows. He was on Hawaii Five-0. He does movies. I've seen him in 2 movies, and he's doing more movies like just all the time. He's always doing movies. Music now. He's in the rap game. He's putting out different albums, and he's working really hard on that. If you talk to anybody in the music industry, or see interviews, I should say, of guys in the music industry that know him, he puts a lot of time into writing lyrics, finding the right beats that he thinks works for him, and just putting time into that rap game. And that's a lot of time, guys. On top of that, he's got a YouTube channel, which he won't run himself, but he's got to do a little bit for it, and he has a couple of his own businesses. This guy's a busy, busy guy, and on top of that, he still has to do all the UFC media, which is a lot given that you're a champion. They have to do a ton of media, and on top of that, he's got to find time to train. So I'm a little worried about that. That is a lot of stuff to be undertaking, and I know you could say, oh, well, what about guys like Stipe Miocic? Stipe Miocic has a part-time job. Okay, all this stuff is way more than a part-time job, on top of which Tyron's doing all this stuff right now. Stipe takes all the firefighter stuff, puts it to the side, goes into training camp, and then does it again afterwards. Okay, he puts that on hold. Tyron's doing all of this right now, and that kind of freaks me out in terms of you're a champion, and you're fighting the best guys in the world that are extremely hungry to beat the shit out of you, and he says he's taking it seriously. But I'm just kind of thinking, like, I know he's always been a smart guy. He's been trying to gain, like, a platform for himself, which in gaining the belt and now defending it, 4 or 5 times, certainly has gained that platform for himself. Everybody knows who he is. So now he has all these opportunities, which is what he's always wanted. But I'm just worried that he's undertaking too much. Reminds me of Ronda Rousey. She started doing movies, and that was her downfall, and then she sucked after that. Lost all her confidence. I don't see that happening to Woodley, but it's just a little bit of a factor that kind of freaks me out, especially if you're like super confident in him winning. On top of that, he's 37 years old, or about to be 37 in like a month. So getting up there in age, and just a lot going on in that guy's life. Moving on to Marty from Nebraska here. So as I stated before, he has a 3.5-inch reach advantage. He's 6 feet tall, and this guy's life, his whole life, is MMA right now. Okay, so that's a big difference between him and Woodley. Every single day he's training. He basically doesn't take off days. Like, he's training at least 6 times a week. Like, it's ridiculous. Doing everything he can to kind of repair his body. He goes easy some days, goes hard other days, but even when he's not in camp, he's there 6 days a week, if not 7 sometimes. He's a Division II wrestler. He was pursuing the Olympics, and I think due to injuries, as a lot of wrestlers have, couldn't go, or didn't qualify, I should say, as well, but the injuries kind of stopped him from pursuing that dream, and in turn, got him into MMA. He's a very technically sound striker, but he's quite basic. He's kind of new to striking still, so yes, he's technically sound, but he has no flow. Look at a guy like Anderson Silva, like Stylebender. These guys have a lot of flow. Like, they're not worried about, oh, keep this hand up, like, they're not thinking about stuff. They're just striking. It's all instinctual, and it flows very well. Usman's not even close to that stage. I think he's thinking a lot, keeping his hands up. It's very robotic, and it's a lot of like jab straight 1-2s. He does throw the high kick there in combination, but doesn't use it that effectively. He's a pressure fighter. He's won basically all his fights that I've seen, pretty much, other than Moraes by decision. And yeah, he just kind of drowns guys, and especially if you can't wrestle, you're in trouble against him. He has great cardio as well. We saw that against RDA. I was just waiting for him to gas, and he never gassed out. It was unbelievable. The guy's so heavily muscled and just gas tank for days. It was very, very impressive to me. So yeah, we'll see how this one goes. This is the hardest fight of this main card for me to call. I've been thinking about it a lot, much more so than any other fight. Probably thinking about this fight as much as all the rest combined, to be honest, because I do that when I can't make a pick. I just like watch more and more tape, and then I never really get anywhere. I'm picking Tyron Woodley to win. I'm very, very skeptical with all these things that he has going on in his life. And if this thing goes past the 3rd round, he could definitely be in trouble. Now, what being in trouble is based on is obviously the gas tank, but what I mean by that is if Usman can pressure him. If Usman can't pressure him and this fight is fought at Woodley's pace, then Woodley's not going to gas out. But if Usman can pressure him and wrestle him for the first 2 rounds, Woodley's going to start to gas in the 3rd, and he's going to be screwed in the 4th and the 5th. I'm kind of leaning towards a Woodley early knockout. I think he's got a fairly decent advantage on the feet. And I also think he's going to gain some respect through hitting Usman, which is going to cause problems for that pressure game of Usman. On top of which, I think Tyron's part of a very good camp, and I think Usman's part of a very subpar camp. So I'm going with Woodley here. I'm not confident at all. Guys, if you want to bet on this fight, I would not bet on Woodley, to be honest. He shouldn't be a 2-1 favorite. I think it should be much closer than that. And I see a lot of people very high on Woodley. I'm very much on the fence, but I'm going to go with Woodley by knockout in this one. All right, now on to the main event of the evening. Jon Jones versus Anthony Smith. Guys, I don't really think there's anything more to say other than...
Champ is here! Time's up. The champ is here! The remix. The champ is here! The champ is here!
Y'all really want me to break this down? I'll do it real quick for you. Okay, where is Jon Jones better? Everywhere. Where's Anthony Smith better? Nowhere. People are saying, Anthony Smith, he's going to have the advantage in the stand-up. Bullshit. There's no chance, okay? Have you watched Anthony Smith fight? He does not have the advantage in the stand-up. That is retarded. Okay, where's Jones better? He's got better stand-up. I don't give a shit what people say. He definitely has better stand-up. He's better in the clinch. He's better on the ground. He has better endurance. He's bigger. He's faster. He's stronger. He's smarter, for sure. They have better game planning at Jackson Wink. He's tougher, and he for sure wants to win more. Am I really saying that? Yeah, Jon Jones wants to win more. Keep in mind, guys, I don't even like Jon Jones, but if you actually think that Anthony Smith is going to win this, you're ridiculous. Guys, nickname's Lionheart. He doesn't have any heart compared to Jon Jones. I don't see this being close. This is, as I've said to some other people, this is like Cub Swanson fighting Tyron Woodley. Who the fuck do you think's going to win? That's it. I'm out. Peace.